The power to be masters of the universe.
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I must warn you, I unapologetically love the old one. That won't stop me from tearing it through shreds. After all, being a critic was surprisingly a path of detachment from all things. But when I was a kid, I first hated this flick because it was the most distant thing from the He-Man cartoon which I adored, and then I started to love it because it was the most distant thing from the He-Man cartoon. After all, this was the live-action adaptation, more specifically the 1987 adaptation with Dolph Lundgren as He-Man and Frank Langella as Skeletor, in which He-Man ends up on Earth due to mishaps with a cosmic key. Probably only old fossils like me and those who dig through awful stuff know about this movie, which was notoriously badly received at the time. But it became somewhat of a cult following due to the ambition that wasn't matched by the budget and the hellish production it went through. For example, Mattel didn't pay up its part on the budget on time and troubled the production with several annoying demands. One of said demands being a visual overhaul and a new character roster to the fray because they wanted to make a new toy line based on the movie, which of course meant that kids like me went, "Oh hey, that's Beastman! And that guy I don't know. Is that Triclops? And is that Merman? No. Merman wasn't a snake. Who the is Gildor? Where's Orko?" Speaking of, visually, this is a movie of bizarre extremes. Because of the limited budget, you only get 3 places in Eternia: the inside of Castle Grayskull, which is great, Gildor's house, and generic Wasteland number 5. Everywhere else is on Earth. Scenes in Eternia lean to brown, contrasting with Earth's lusher green and city gray. Character designs are also almost monochromatic, if not bichromatic, in palettes with designs that range from "that's actually pretty cool" to meh. Man at Arms and Tila are bluish gray, which made me wonder why they couldn't paint the armor to something different. And since Orko was deemed too complicated and expensive to animate and bring to the big screen, Gwildor the Inventor was created in his stead, and having red hair and greenish robes reminded me of a leprechaun, and I have to admit I ended enjoying He-Man's design. The cape was a nice touch, and the more elaborated shoulder pads do give him a more mythical warrior vibe. On the side of evil, you have some costumes that seemed to be just slapped from what was available a la old Star Trek like Blade, and you have higher quality designs and costumes like Skeletor, which, considering the time of this movie was made and the budget, was really good. I also liked Evelyn and... Yeah, I can't go on without mentioning that this movie is an obvious ripoff of both Star Wars and Conan. On one hand, I have to admit that Skeletor soldiers do have a pretty cool design, even if they are black lawyer-friendly versions of the Stormtroopers, and they fared a lot better than Disney ripoffs such as Black Hole. But on the other hand, being a copy does kill originality and fidelity. For example, He-Man's sword looks nothing like the original and is far closer to Schwarzenegger's. Still, they did have some interesting things with the designs and props. As a kid, I loved the Cosmic Key, but even kid me knew that Skeletor's design after he gets the power of Grayskull was too much. The visual effects also range from really good to really bad, and again, that because of the production. You have some good chroma key moments, some awful ones, some good explosions, and some awful ones, and so on. The directing and acting also follows this rule of bizarre extremes. On one hand, you have Dolph Lundgren, who behaves erratically through the whole movie. We all know, Dolph himself included, that he wasn't a great actor, and in some shots it feels as if he was embarrassed of being in this flick. But in other scenes, he tried his best, sometimes even giving the impression that he actually enjoys being He-Man. And then in other scenes, it flips back to him just wanting to cash his paycheck. John Cypher seems to be just having fun playing Man-at-Arms, and Chelsea Field, who plays Tila, tries her best but feels as if she doesn't know where to go, definitely due to the writing. On the other hand, both Courtney Cox and Tom Paris, Robert Duncan McNeil, were just starting their careers, so they give their all, And of course, it would be impossible to talk about this movie and not include how Frank Langella absolutely devours the scenario like popcorn. He steals the show and runs away to Vegas alongside Meg Foster as Evelyn. Even if under 10 pounds of makeup, you can see crystal clear how much Langella is absolutely loving playing Skeletor. And being given carte blanche to write his own dialogues elevated his acting to rarely reach over the top levels of utter ham and cheese. In character egomania, which are a joy to watch and a love to hate.
You dare threaten her life? I dare anything!
He and Meg Forster had a really good chemistry. She clearly plays an evil Lynn who is at the same time downright dedicated to Skeletor, some could even say in a fanatical love, but also with her own agenda and knows that she can be turned into goo if she fails him. Whenever either one is on screen, the directing jumps in quality. And when both of them are on screen, things turn memorable. The sequence of Skeletor arriving at the Grayskull Palace is so good that even the soundtrack is synchronized with his staff beating against the floor. Speaking of, directing is also wild in quality. Most of the time, it's just good, straightforward but good. But when it comes to Skeletor, you have some really good framing and longer cuts. Sometimes it uses the Dutch angle in order to heighten how something is weird, which is the correct way, but it's overall efficient, with some of the worst fighting scenes I've ever seen. Not just the final fight between He-Man and Skeletor, that was bad due to the lack of budget. Yes, the director paid from his own pocket to have that scene made to properly finish the film. But no, the rest of the fight scenes are also bad, with sudden cuts, awkward movement, continuity errors, effect errors, and more. And yeah, there is the bizarre sudden focus on He-Man's chest that everyone talks about. Now, on the writing, well, there isn't anywhere to go, the extremes are also here. The movie starts in the middle of a shocking twist, with Skeletor having almost already won, and then work how it happened through expository dialogue. Gwildor is an inventor from a peaceful race, duped by evil Lynn into given an artifact that basically enabled the villains to skip Grayskull's defenses. This by itself isn't bad. In fact, there were several episodes of the old series where Skeletor gets really close to win by duping people, but in the rush to throw everyone on Earth for the sake of the budget, a lot of the corners are cut and bizarre choices are made, such as Gwildor's house leading to tunnels right under Grayskull. What? Anyway, we are given a vague time limit till Skeletor completely absorbs the powers of the sorcerers, then He-Man is sent to Earth. From here on, it becomes the obvious fish out of the water story. We are introduced to Julie and Kevin, their relationship, how Julie's parents died, monsters attack Julie, He-Man saves her, everyone considers each other weird, and so on. On one hand, the writing tries its best in using and wrapping up plot points. For example, Julie doesn't get over her parents' demise through this adventure, but it's not just a minor detail. Evil Lynn actually uses this fact to dupe Julie. But on the other hand, there isn't much to work with. This ends just as not even a treasure hunting adventure, just a tug of war. This time the MacGuffin is the cosmic key, invented by Gwildor, which can transport anyone anywhere in the universe. Skeletor stole the original, but Gwildor had a prototype. Which becomes kind of weird when you notice that the Sword of Power, He-Man's signature weapon, is basically forgotten about till the last part of the movie. Gwildor escapes with the group to Earth, and Skeletor gives chase wanting to find the prototype, and he doesn't have to. He is still inside Grayskull, he still has the sorceress, so technically He-Man was the one to give chase to get back and save the day. If the Sword of Power was used as the MacGuffin, like the original cartoon, it would make far more sense for Skeletor to be desperate to give chase, since he wouldn't be able to unlock the powers of the castle without it. But anyway, moving on. Earthlings find the MacGuffin, don't know what to do with it, don't know what it is, and go around asking about it. Villains track MacGuffin, then heroes track MacGuffin, then villains return to track MacGuffin. The narrative gets stale and bizarre twists happen with a lot of padding in between. One moment, Evelyn's ship tracks the MacGuffin faster than He-Man and his crew on his car, and the other moment, the car is insanely faster than an airship. At least, what happens to move the plot forward in the end is still kept within characterization, even if the final battle was absurdly rushed. The good guys win, Gwildor reveals that his invention can also transport people through time, which would induce headaches to the plot if it wasn't the literal last minutes of the movie and it wasn't just to save Julie's parents. There is some comedic fodder in the middle. Sometimes it's entertaining and it could have made the movie better if properly focused, like the Eternians learning about Earth's customs and food. But most of the time it will come from Gwildor, and most of it is just Gwildor showing up, badly breaking a tense moment with awkward comments or behavior. I don't hate him. He is still useful and isn't as annoying as I remember, but he could have been better written. Speaking of, characterization is insanely uneven. We don't see any shred of Prince Adam in this He-Man. There is no hint of what happened to the king and queen due to the rushed pace, and at most of the time, Tila is just there. But even then, Man-at-Arms does have a good bantering with He-Man, both acting as war buddies, and since this is a movie of the 80s, when it was time to be a good person, He-Man was exemplary. Even if he is in an alien world with the fate of the universe at stake, he still takes time to properly comfort a visibly shaken Julie, calmly explaining what's going on and then asking her help. And I can't hammer enough how much I miss good characters being good people. The Earthling characters also aren't bad. Julie and Kevin aren't annoying, do their best, and react accordingly in a bizarre situation. And Lubick, the cop, may be an asshole, but even then, one can still see that he is trying to do a good job. And then we switch to the evil side, and goddamn! These are the smartest and most efficient Skeletor and Evelyn I've ever seen. When it's time to be the head henchwoman, Evelyn calmly and coldly executes orders, successfully tracking the heroes several times, and even if she isn't in the brunt of the fighting, she expertly manipulates everyone around her, preferring to use finesse to brute force and having a commanding presence. Hers and Skeletor's banters are also quite sharp, and some of the best dialogues of the movie are theirs. Speaking of, even if he is a raging egomaniac, Skeletor is cautious, sending scouting parties instead of going at full force, and when it's time to be evil, he is merciless and psychotic. Frank Langella did write some of his dialogue, giving him extra weight, and his fixation on He-Man is credible, with good reasons as to why not kill him from the get-go. So there are plenty of reasons to hate or love this movie, though the ambition to make something worthy of the name was definitely there. And one of the reasons to love this movie that I had forgotten about was the music. Damn, the music and sound crew really went above and beyond here. The synthesizer effects used for the keys were really good, and the music successfully blends the high fantasy with the sci-fi adventure.
Now press that red button in the front. Go ahead.
While at the same time getting just close enough to Star Wars but being lawyer friendly. Nothing that I download for my personal files, but it's definitely worth pointing it out. So, after removing the nostalgia glasses and watching this again after all these years, do I still love this movie? Yes. Is this movie as bad as people say it is? No. Would I recommend this movie? Also no. While there's a lot to love and hate, in the end, I feel this movie is too much of a niche to be broadly recommended. It's a sci-fi fantasy adventure with some action, and while it's not as awful as I heard a lot of people crying it was, it doesn't excel at anything, crippled by the lack of a good budget, and remained something of a niche. A comfortable, nostalgic spot for people like me who originally watched it many years ago when life was easier. It's not a forgotten jewel or a misunderstood work of art, but it was still an ambitious attempt, and if you are aware of its flaws and is curious about it, I do say that you can watch it without fear of wasting your time. That's all for today. See you all next time. Remember to like and subscribe, and next week we have the new He-Man movie.